What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We are back with our final preview for round 4, Ireland versus Scotland. I feel like this could be a really close game. I'm going to check on the game of Rugby 20 in the background. I will play as Scotland because they're slightly lower rated. It's going to be a good one. Let's get into this game and get us kicked off. Alrighty, Adam Hastings is going to get us kicked underway. Not that we've seen him for a little while, so Ireland versus Scotland. I know a lot of people are going to be excited for the England-France game, but to me, I think this might be one of the most interesting games we're going to see in a long time in this Six Nations. Two teams getting awfully close in ability currently. Scotland on the up. Ireland haven't had a terrible Six Nations, but they had the worst start to a Six Nations currently. They had a good win over Italy. A lot of people seeming to impress, but there is something missing in that Ireland attack. In fact, you know what? Let's start off talking about Ireland. Ireland versus Italy was a show of how good Ireland can be when they start firing on all cylinders. They won that game, I think it was 38 points they won that game by, and they played very well, to be fair. A lot of people getting back to the form we like to see. Johnny Sexton had a much better game, and a couple of people really managed to step up, and you got to see a bit more of the Ireland squad we were sort of expecting going into this Six Nations, which we haven't seen so far, in my opinion. There's a lot of talent in this team, but they just can't make it gel super well together. Coming up against Scotland, going to be a very tough one, playing, of course, at Murrayfield, and Scotland have had that extra rest week, so it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. In terms of the team that has been announced, there's been a couple of changes across the board from that Italy game, which we'd probably expect. In the front row, we now have Cian Healy, Herring and Furlong, rather than, I think it was Kilcoyne and Kelleher in the Italy match, and to be honest, both of them really impressed. I think the front 8 for Ireland is such a diverse group of talent. They can pretty much replace anyone, and any replacement is just as good as the person they replace with. But a solid front row, I think they'll know Scotland will want to play strong up front, so got to have that solid front 3 in there. Henderson and Ryan taking over in the lock positions. I think it's worked very well for them in that Italy game. Moving Tadhg Beirne to that flanker position at 6 gets you to have both Henderson and Ryan on the pitch at the same time. We know they can be good at line-outs. In fact, did they even win 100% of the line-outs for them last week against Italy? I think they played very well, so they're doing brilliantly at this point. Tadhg Beirne, like I said, also doing very well in that flanker position. Will Connors had the best game I've ever seen him play for Ireland. He made my team of the week, along with a lot of this Ireland side, actually. I think people got a little bit annoyed that I picked so many Ireland players, but I was just so impressed with how well Ireland played against that Italy team. They are still a Tier 1 nation, even if it is Italy that are not playing brilliantly at the minute, but it's still a Tier 1 team, and Ireland run them ragged, and Will Connors was certainly an intricate part of that. So he remains his place there over Van der Fleer, and I think deserved. And then, of course, finally to finish it off, CJ Stander in that number 8 position, trying to put his hand up potentially for man of the tournament. I've been very impressed by CJ Stander in this game so far, across the tournament really. Every game he's had has been very, very good, running from that backfield, taking men down with him, smashing his way through, making those carries, making those meters, making those positive tackles. Very, very impressive. But across the board, 1 to 8 there, looking very solid. Scotland know they're going to bring a huge pack to this game, so they'll try and work out their own defence of how to take on this Ireland team. Moving to the backs, big call here. Gibson Park taking the scrum half position over Conor Murray. Conor Murray is back in the team, but Gibson Park's obviously done enough to impress. He wasn't terrible in that Italy game. There was still some good work from him, so you know what, good luck to him managing to maintain that. We won't get to see any more of Craig Casey in this game, unfortunately. Johnny Sexton's going to keep the fly half. Really impressive to see him back on the form we're used to. He hasn't had a good tournament so far, but that Italy game allowed him to get back to his roots. I think his kicking game was much better, his attacking play was much better, so impressive from him. The centre partnership, Henshaw and Ringrose, I don't think we're going to see any different across this Six Nations. They're working very well together. Henshaw's been a little quiet since the first week we got to see him in, but Ringrose has been very, very impressive. Onto the wings, we've got James Lowe, of course, taking that left wing. Didn't see a lot from him in the Italy game. Really expected him to do a lot more. He spent an awful lot of time involving himself in rucks and mauls rather than actually hanging on his wing. Not really sure what he was doing out there. And of course, he got his try disallowed that I thought was a very harsh forward pass. But I would have liked to have seen a bit more from James Lowe in that, but we do know how good he can be when he finds the room and gets a little bit more explosive, so I'm sure we'll see a bit more from him. Keith Earls goes back to his 14 position on the right wing. Jordan Lama's going to move back onto the bench. Probably a good move. Jordan Lama had an alright first half. Keith Earls had a better second half, so I think this is a good move for them really. Keith Earls retaining that position, and Keenan finally in that full back position. who hasn't put a foot wrong, really, in this Six Nations. I think he's played very well. He's put himself in a lot of, in every position, basically. I've seen him in rucks when they were that man down against Peter O'Mahony, got his red card, of course. He basically took over Peter O'Mahony's job, along with trying to do his own job, so very impressed by him. So I think 1-15 is looking very, very solid for this Ireland team. It's going to be a big game going up against Scotland. They aren't messing around. They put all the big boys on. We'll quickly check out the replacements, who are basically just everyone that got taken off, I think, from last week. So Kelleher and Kilcoyne, both of which were very impressive. I thought Kelleher did very well in the hooker position, and Kilcoyne was looking very dangerous. There was a couple of penalties he gave away. I think he was just desperate to get on the field, but it was very, very impressive. He was in my team of the week as well. Andrew Porter will, of course, finish off in that tight head position. I really like Andrew Porter. I think he had a great Autumn Nations Cup, and I think he's bringing it back in. He is missing out a lot to Tyg Furlong, actually, so maybe want to step up his game a little bit, but everything I've seen Porter do so far been very, very impressive. Baird came back into that 19. Of course, he made his debut last week, so didn't really put a foot wrong, so nice to see him coming back in. Conan at the 20 position. I'm sure we'll probably see him second half. I'm not sure who he would rather come on for in that second half. I think he can play a couple of positions, so I'm sure he will come on. Maybe in the last 20 or something, just to try and re-bolster the team a little bit. Conor Murray, of course, as we mentioned, is going to take that scrum half position on the bench. Big call. I mean, Conor Murray needs to know his position is up for grabs. This is a big game. I thought Conor Murray would make the starting team if he was available, but Gibson Park doing well to retain it. Billy Burns at 22. Everyone by now knows how much I'm ashamed that Ross Byrne still not getting a big look in. I'm even beginning to wonder if he's just picked up an injury that I've missed along the way. I'm a big fan of Ross Byrne, but Billy Burns still trying to improve on that tournament start with that kick he did against Wales straight into the dead ball area. Bit of a shame for him. And finally, Jordan Lama, the super sub, coming on. Can play wing, can play fullback. Chuck him in centre if you want to. Who really cares? He plays anywhere he wants to. I am a big fan of Jordan Lama. I haven't got to see a lot of him in this tournament so far, unfortunately. He seems to come on in that last 20, or no one really gave him the ball as much as I wanted them to. He did okay in the Italy game. Just like to see a little bit more from him. So 1-23, looking pretty solid across the board. Like I said, I think they know Scotland are going to go big for this one. They've had that extra week off because they didn't get to play the France game. So Ireland can't afford to mess around, and they have not had a good Six Nations. They need points. They need wins. I'm sure Farrell at coaching will be pretty desperate to get Ireland back on top form. Considering the talent that's in this team, I really can't pick out a weakness. If you look at each player individually and just look at the names here, this must be one of the most solid teams in this Six Nations, but for some reason they just aren't firing as they'd want to. So they will of course be going over to Murrayfield against the home team, Scotland, who didn't get to play last week. So let's chat about the Scotland team. I think Scotland will feel very hard done by not getting to play that France team. Of course, there were concerns around COVID positive tests coming out in that France team. There was talk about whether they were going to have to side maybe a second team. Maybe they were going to miss the game. Maybe they were going to get a default win. I think for Scotland, the France game would have been really tough, but Scotland have been playing well at the minute. I think it would have been a really good match to have seen them at those 2 points playing each other. I think it would have been a good game to watch, and especially think if France had to go down to a B squad, if they had to replace all of those people that came through with positive tests, I think Scotland would have been looking like potentially the favourites to win that game. So they'll feel a little bit hard done by. Of course, they got that extra week of rest. Hopefully a bit of extra week of preparation for this Ireland game, so it's going to be a big one. So starting off with a team named Rory Sutherland, George Turner, WP Nell, all three playing well. We are still of course going to be missing Xander Fagerson in that tight head position. George Turner's playing really well at the minute, actually very impressed to see him come in the lock, Scott Cummings and Johnny Gray. There's no Ritchie Gray in this team this week, so I don't know if I've missed an injury there. I did try and have a quick look, I couldn't see anything, maybe just not in the team. I thought Ritchie Gray was playing well, to be honest, but Scott Cummings is going to retain that 4 position. Moving to the back row, Jamie Ritchie, Hamish Watson and Matt Fagerson. Jamie Ritchie back in this team. That will bolster the flanker position to no end. Him and Hamish Watson together, both blindside and openside flankers, are superb. Really looking forward to seeing this back three get into action against Ireland. Big boys on both sides going up against each other. It's going to be a battle of the forwards, I think, this one. I don't think we'll be seeing a lot of tries. I think this will be working its way through the forwards and trying to get those penalty kicks where you can. Moving on to the backs, Ali Price will of course maintain that 9 position. He's having a good tournament. I'm sure a couple of people might even say he's playing some of the best scrum half work, but of course DuPont in there putting his own hand up. I don't know if he'll be able to get best scrum half of the tournament, but he is playing really, really well at the minute. Finn Russell still in at the fly half position. Finn Russell playing well, as long as he can avoid tripping people over, but he is playing well. His kicking percentages, I'm trying to even think back now to the first couple of games. It's been so long since I've watched Scotland play, having missed that France game. He's a very good attacking fly half, though. I think, to be honest, this game could really come down to the best kicker. And hopefully Finn Russell will improve that accuracy, get that back up to 100%. I believe Sexton got 100% against Italy in the kicking ratio, so maybe Sexton's the favourite to do better in the kicking, but Finn Russell, we know how dangerous he is in attacking with very tactical kicking over the back of people. Very, very good. Moving into that final row, on the wing, Duhan van der Merwe, going to be looking forward to seeing him. Him up against Keith Earls is going to be an interesting battle. Duhan van der Merwe is just like an X-Men. I've said it before, he's like Wolverine, he just runs through people. Will be interesting to see how Keith Earls can defend him on that wing. Centre partnership, Sam Johnson and Chris Harris. It's a good partnership. It's nice to see Sam Johnson in on that inside centre. Chris Harris has played pretty well through the tournament, actually. Been quite an aggressive 13. Nice to see him doing some good work. Sean Maitland taking over on the right wing over Darcy Graham, which I thought was a big call. Darcy Graham was playing really well in that Wales game, and to be honest, I think I might have picked Darcy Graham over Sean Maitland. I think maybe the choice here's come from knowing that he's got to go up against James Lowe on that right-hand wing. And I'm not super up to date with who's bigger in terms of weight and size, but maybe Sean Maitland's a little bit bigger. Maybe they think they'll be able to take him on. Personally, for me, I would maybe want to look at speed, and I reckon Darcy Graham is probably a little bit quicker than Sean Maitland, so big call there. But Sean Maitland, nice to see him back in the team. Of course, he did go out for that game against Wales, and of course finished it off Stuart Hogg. So 1-15 again, strong. Neither team messing about here. I think this is going to be a great game. I think this could be a ferocious game where no one scores any points, trying to build up, just fighting each other for points. I think it's going to be great. Quickly checking out the replacement, David Cherry, Jamie Batty and Simon Bergen going to come on. There's not a bad substitutions there going to come on. I do reckon the Ireland subs for the front row replacements are probably stronger. Both teams have a strong starting 15, but I reckon the replacements could be a big deciding factor in this game. Grant Gilchrist comes in on that lock position. I'm a big fan of Grant Gilchrist. Hopefully he has a good game. At 20, Nick Haining, who I haven't seen an awful lot from, so it would be nice to see him come on at some point. Scott Steele, of course, desperate for game time. We just don't get to see him. Ali Price playing like an absolute machine, so I would like to see a little bit more from Scott Steele. Hugh Jones, I'm a big fan of Hugh Jones, but again, not a lot of game time coming on. Again, second half, maybe he could be good there in that centre. We know how good he is at finding gaps in defensive. Nice to see Hugh Jones come on at some point. And finally, Darcy Graham. I believe Scotland are going to go for a big forward game for that first half and hope it opens up in the second half. Bring on the fast players and hopefully try and pick some lines, maybe get some late tries in this game, but it's going to be a super duper close one. In terms of predictions, this could go either way to me. I'm sure everyone down in the comments will be fighting over who they think can win this one. Ireland have got the form for this game. They've won 9 out of the last 10 fixtures these two teams have had, but I think Scotland are really doing well in this tournament. It could go either way. This is so tight. My head says Ireland, my gut says Scotland. I'm going to say Ireland. I'm going to say Ireland, not by a lot. I reckon Ireland by 6. That's going to be my call. I think it's going to be a battle of the kickers, not a big scoring game. It's going to be all about the fly halves, but let me know what you guys think. Make sure you drop it down in the comments what you think the final score will be, who you're rooting for, and who you think's gonna win. I hope you've all enjoyed today, guys. I cannot wait for round 4. I already bought the beers today. I'm going to be sat down all weekend watching the rugby. I hope you all enjoy them too. I'll see you all next time, guys. Bye-bye.